You're listening to the Help, I'm a Contractor podcast with Seth Lewis. This podcast is dedicated to helping hardworking contractors share ideas with other contractors. Seth is educated through the School of Hard Knocks, a contractor, business coach, and author. Seth helps contractors break through recurring challenges by helping them study themselves first. Seth's unique approach is guaranteed to take you from your current reality to your business dream. Learn more at www.startthemo.com. Here is your host, Seth Lewis.
Today on the show, I'm really excited about our guest. We connected and there was just a good vibe about understanding people and the you part. We say it in different ways, but it's still the same core principles. Lamont is a self-mastery coach, an award-winning writer, lifetime landscape gardener, and co-creator of the Lake August Gardens, a Texas-based botanical resort whose mission is connecting hearts with nature. He's expressed creativity in music, arts, information technology, and renewable energy industries, impacting personal growth and development through team building and mentoring inside some of the nation's most iconic brands. I'm excited to have him on the show. Welcome, Lamont. How are you doing today?
Doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on. And likewise, I'm so excited about the connection that we made just after the new year. So, we all set these create these resolutions or these intentions for ourselves. And mine certainly has been to make meaningful connections. And I feel like the connection that we have made is in alignment with so much of what I live for. And getting to know you, I think there's a lot of overlap in our mission in life, which is to really educate people around what's possible. So thank you for having me on the show to share that with you today.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I think your insights are really great around, some of the mindfulness and some of your journey of what you teach. I mean, you're involved in a lot of different areas. So I guess just to start, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're located, and your journey through where you're at today.
Yeah, so my journey has been an amazing one. Lamont was a name that was given to me in the 70s, a popular show called Sanford and Son, which you may know about. I'm sure many of your viewers will. My mom loved the show, so she named me Lamont. And I wasn't very fond of the name until I met this Jewish lady who was from France and let me know that my name was French. And so that really sparked some excitement around discovering what that name meant, which means the mountain in French. And, in a little boy in East Texas, population about 10,000 people, it really opened my mind to the possibilities in the world. And so, learning about the world really kind of happened for me through just creativity in gardening. I wanted to make some money on the weekends and, to go to the swimming pool, and, video games were really popular in the convenience stores at that time. And you needed a quarter to play, and my parents weren't going to be giving me a lot of quarters to play. So I had a friend who said, let's get a lawnmower and go mow yards and make money. And so we knocked on a lot of doors and got a lot of rejection. We must have been 10 or 11. And finally, one woman gave us a break. Sandra Piper was her name. And she opened my mind to more than mowing grass, but she opened my mind in the possibility of landscaping. And that became a passion. And it has really been a vehicle that has supported me in many of the industries that I've impacted, as well as people that I've impacted. And to this day, I feel like it's a full circle moment, because all that I've gone out in the world, leveraging that knowledge and come back with, I now get to create Lake August Gardens, which is a place that can support people in accessing what I've gotten access through my experiences.
So a little bit about your journey. So you were in corporate, or was it always landscape, or how did that kind of evolve to where you got to the gardens today?
Yeah, that's a great question. And thank you. I remember graduating from high school. And at that point, I had been doing landscape design for about 6 years at that point. And, in school, they always say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I didn't know that I was already doing what I loved. I was just surviving and making ends meet to help my family out and myself. And what happened was I selected healthcare for whatever reason, because that seemed to be where everyone was being guided, that, the baby boomers were my parents. And so the notion was these baby boomers would need the service of someone in the healthcare field once I was out of college and working in that field. So I did go down the path of nursing, didn't like needles and blood. So scratch that. Pharmaceuticals, didn't like standing on my feet and dealing with people coughing and needing their meds. And so as I had a landscape client, an elderly lady, she suggested that I go and volunteer at the East Texas Treatment Center, which was physical therapy, occupational therapy. She actually put a word for me in, and they actually hired me to be a technician. And I actually fell in love with therapy because it really kind of overlaid what I was doing, taking care of plants and nurturing and making sure that they were healthy and they were able to grow and thrive. So physical therapy really kind of satisfied that. So I went into the medical industry to pursue being a therapist. Some of my prerequisites were information technology. I moved from the country, East Texas, to Dallas, the big city, working for Health South, I believe was the organization. And on my way to work, I would struggle paying rent with what they were paying me as a technician. And on my way to work, I would see a building that would say CompUSA and Kodak. And one day I just said, let me go and see if they'll hire me in the information technology world. This was late 90, 98, 99, where IT was really becoming like a buzzword. And, everyone was looking to get into IT and get an A+ or C+ certification. So I wanted to make a switch into that and out of healthcare because I felt like I wasn't making enough money. I went, offered a job in a call center, didn't even know what a call center was. And I think through my nurturing and my sense of entrepreneurship, I was able to move quite quickly, in the call center environment, learning their operating systems and CRMs, and moved into corporate America, where I pretty much thrived and worked every department within the organization and ultimately ran teams out in Southern California. So it was like university for me. And that really exposed me to how you take an idea to an enterprise. And I think that even refortified my sense of entrepreneurship and creating businesses and expanding them.
So I think there's a lot of people that are in corporate and they have this dream of entrepreneurship, and they want to do things or have a business or whatever it may be. I think you have an interesting perspective because you've done both. You've went through the corporate journey, you've had some different careers, and then you've done entrepreneurship on both ends, from in the beginning and then now as well. So I think it's always interesting to hear somebody's like yourself's perspective on the sense of somebody that's in the corporate. What skills are preparing them for the journey or that leap that they want to do? And then the second question might be, how do they make that leap? When you're in corporate, how do you step away and say, I'm going to do this now and I'm on my own maybe? What would you say to that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, that's a question that I have asked myself many times once I was in the corporate world. I can remember, moving up the ranks in corporate America, which that was just the idea for me until I was actually working in corporate America and understanding, the bureaucracy of, paying your dues and, and leading by example in these things. And so it was natural for me to progress in corporate America because I think my entrepreneur skill set allowed me to see opportunities to create solutions and provide a solution where I think most people who are in corporate America, they've gone to school, they've gotten a degree, and this is what they're supposed to be doing. So they have an expectation that this is what I should be doing. Whereas I never had that expectation. I was always curious. And I think curiosity really kind of guides you whether you're looking to get in the corporate world, or you're in the corporate world and you're looking to get, out and do your own thing. I think curiosity, where you're actually seeking to discover what's available for you as a next step. I think that's the biggest thing, staying curious. I think you can multitask. You can actually impact a corporate entity, which impacts all of us as consumers, but you can also create solutions and also create a commodity that you can develop yourself that might be a value add to the corporate situation that you might find yourself in. So be curious.
When you look at that corporate experience that you had and you transfer that to the entrepreneurship, what were some of the key things that you learned in corporate? Because there's a couple different types of people. When you look at this, there's people that have been entrepreneurs their whole life and they've never got that. And then there's people that are looking to make that transition and saying, maybe while I'm here in corporate, I should be really dialing in on learning this or paying attention to this, because it's going to help me in my entrepreneurship journey. Was there anything like that that you said, this is really helping me now as an entrepreneur?
I would say so. When I was offered the job to actually go to work for CompUSA, which I really didn't understand the scope, that it was an enterprise organization. I didn't understand, when I went to apply for the job in the call center, on their central registration team, where they were rolling out SAP, which is, an industry standard CRM that I got to learn and got free training on. I didn't understand the scope that CompUSA was, at the time, the largest computer retailer in America, having 300 plus stores and field service teams and like all these levels of management. So I didn't understand that. So for me, realizing that I had gotten in at what we would call a customer service level, I didn't understand the impact that customer service has on expanding and growing business. So I learned that, service is really important. I do think just who I am, people really enjoy what I offered in terms of service when I was running my own business as a post-adolescent teen, early adult. But that's my natural, and that's who I am. What I learned is the follow-up is really important, making sure that what the service that you delivered, they're still satisfied with it, because that creates an opportunity for you to offer more services that you might bring online or that you might scale into. So keeping that communication open, not just doing the job and then, saying it's done and moving away. That was one thing. Another thing that I also got out of corporate America. So when I grew my business, it grew organically. I mean, I was managing multiple clients across a pretty dense region, and I had a team of about 15 people working for and with me that I had to communicate with and pay and, invoicing and get product. Like, there was a lot that I was doing, but it needed to be done. And so I really learned in my corporate experience delegation, like really how to effectively delegate and communicate what your mission is for your clients and how to have that be communicated consistently so that people aren't doing their own thing. And then also, everybody must win, really creating an opportunity for people who see your vision, want to contribute to it, not just for their own personal reasons, but for the mission of what you're doing, and continuing having them enroll others in that mission. I found that was really impactful for me in corporate America.
Mission's really powerful. I mean, it's something that people say, sometimes they write on the wall. They don't really get behind it. So with your team, I think that's a great point. How do you get people rallied around that mission?
I would say an enrollment conversation I've discovered over the years is really important. Oftentimes, we live in a social media world now where people are like, hey, go and buy my CD, or go and, check out my new lace front wigs that I'm selling at my new salon that I just opened. Come out and fill in the blank. And, there is, again, that expectation that if you tell people to go and do something, that they're going to go and do it. And so I've discovered in my years of experience and working with X number of people and cross-functional teams, that enrollment conversations are really important. And an enrollment conversation is three parts. You're first relating to whomever it is that you are communicating with about your mission. First you're acknowledging them, you're acknowledging them with some type of salutation greeting. Then you're relating to them so that they can get your world, you can get into their world, and then you're making unreasonable requests. When you do that, people actually hear themselves inside your mission. So when you share the mission, like they already get what the mission is because they're enrolled in your possibility, because they see themselves inside your possibility. That's very, I think, impactful, and it's powerful, especially when you have a product and you're enrolling salespeople to take your product to market. You really want them to embody your mission and communicate your product in a way that people see themselves inside your mission.
So when you think about, or when you have this journey, you went to corporate, then what?
I left corporate because one gift that the powers that be blessed me with is a voice. So I'm also a vocalist and songwriter. And so when I was working for CompUSA in the corporate world, I had sang nationally in a group prior, and I just abandoned that because now I'm in corporate, and I put on the suit and played that game. And interestingly enough, the company to build teams, just to build team camaraderie, we would do different fun things, and one was a talent show, and I entered that talent show and sang and got a standing ovation, and I was overwhelmed because I had not sang in public for at least 5 years at that time. And so when that happened, I was present to the fact that I had a voice, I had this creative ability to write and sing. And so I left my job at corporate America and moved to California. It was a coin toss, New York and LA. LA won. I put in my notice, packed as much as I could in my car, and drove from Texas to Los Angeles, which was.
This show is brought to you by Momentum U. If you are an owner and you're ready to scale up and break past recurring challenges, it's time to start studying you. You are the only common piece between all your success and recurring challenges. You are the only person that can unlock your untapped momentum. Let us show you how. Go to www.startthemo.com to learn more.
Which was magical and a discovery in itself. And so I pursued my music endeavors and ended up signing with Roba, the largest music publisher in Europe, moved to Germany, lived in Italy, recorded with iconic celebrities that you may know out there. And that created so much, it was a sense of entrepreneurship too, because as you know, digital media now is king, and you got to promote your own stuff. No one's buying albums, they're only buying singles. So even then I had to pull from my corporate experience, from my entrepreneur experience, and learn that industry. So that's what took me from corporate back to entrepreneurship.
Tell me the craziest reaction you got when you told family or people or whoever, I'm dropping everything, I'm going to LA or New York.
I think it was shocking for many. However, I've always kind of lived on the edge, the leading edge, if you will, from the microcosm of people that were in my circle. Like I was always outside the box. So for me to move to Dallas from East Texas, where I had this business, everyone knew me, I was in the newspaper, I was helping a lot of businesses and residential people, so folk knew me when I worked at East Texas Treatment Center. I treated a lot of people who were affluent and in the area, so people knew me. So it was shocking that I was leaving that and moving to Dallas, right? So when it came that I was moving to LA, I think a lot of people were just looking to see what was going to happen, and it was a magical experience.
It's always interesting. You just never know, you hear those stories and, where people just packed up, whether it's LA, New York, Nashville, any of those places, they're pretty cool. And it's awesome to hear that, you got out there and you had success. That's really, really exciting.
It was really an instinctual thing. I had no idea where I was going to live. I didn't know what my work was going to be. I know I wanted to abandon the corporate thing and just focus on the creative, music thing. I put an amazing band came together within weeks, and these were people that have played for legends out there. Like, the universe attracted everything, and as soon as it came together, it just fizzled away. And the next call I got was CompUSA calling me to lead stores. And so I was faced with, do I continue pursuing my passion at the time, which was my creative endeavors, or do I take what I know, what I'm comfortable with, what I know I can make money with, that I had been doing at that point for 8 years, but had paused it to relocate. And I said no 2 times. The third time, there were no other options but to say yes. So I said yes. And that was another amazing experience in learning, the whole retail world and clients that I had. And so it's all been, I say, magic. It's been magical for me to just abandon conditioning and really go with the flow and be vulnerable and put myself out there and take a chance. And when I look back at what I'm creating now with my partner Joseph here at Lake August Gardens, it's going back to that. It's going back to that creative flow, to knowing who I am, that I can create whatever that is within my power to create, if I don't sabotage myself through my state of being and myself, and just create. And when I look at the opportunities that presented, when I was an entrepreneur, and then I was in physical therapy, and then I went and just knocked on a door and got hired at CompUSA and quit that job and moved to LA, and this amazing band came together and we did some shows, and then CompUSA presented again. Like, there wasn't a whole lot that I was doing other than being ready and available for the opportunities that presented, and having the audacity to say yes.
Yeah, that's a great point and explanation. I'd like to dive a little bit more into that, because I think it's a really interesting topic. And I know that there's people that are listening that are thinking, how in the world did you do that? How do you just keep moving and seeing these opportunities? Because there's a lot of people that miss the opportunities. There's a lot of people that don't see them and they don't connect with them. So that when they hear your story, they're saying, I would love to do that. I would love to be that person that can see the opportunity, because all of a sudden it seems like it works out. So my question would be, how do you take the jump? So for somebody that's listening to this and saying they're not wired like you, but they're saying, I like what you're saying, I want to experience that, I want to take the jump, whether it's in entrepreneurship or it's taking the new job or moving across the country. You're the expert in this right now. I mean, you've done this, you've proven that you can do it and have a good outcome. How would you coach them through that in a simple way?
So coaching is what I do, and I do it, basically it being a self-reflection of my own experience, tenacity, people who have had a positive impact in my life. And I would say self-reflection is really the catalyst to any move that you would make in the unknown. Because it literally is the unknown. Like, we exist in the unknown until we make meanings of it, right? And getting back to that really requires, I think, a lot of inward contemplation and reflection. However, in my experience, there is a point where you discern or you perceive within self that you can do it, right? You can hear within yourself, you can say, I can do it. But there's a knowing that you access. And for me, I'm present that when that knowing occurs, my outward reality also reflects back to me that it can be done, right? So things kind of happen, synchronicity occurs. You're in the right place at the right time. The conversations that are occurring, if you're present, are kind of consistent, right? To me, that is an inner knowing that is reflected outward that you can actually see. And for me, I really dialed into that, after I moved from East Texas to Dallas, which that was the first opportunity in my life where I was present to that inner knowing being reflected out and back to me to validate or to clarify the actions that I need to take. I remember before I moved to Dallas, I had said, or I had thought, this has been great. I've made good money. It's a safety net. It's easy. I can do it in my sleep. Like if I needed money, I could call a few people, go work some jobs and have some money because I had built that. Yet I perceived that there was more. And, when I had the idea to move to Dallas, I was confronted by the fact that how could I manage all of this there? Because Dallas is about a 2-hour. I was confronted with all that. And I think many people, whether they're looking to leave their corporate gig and start their own thing, is confronted by now. They're confronted by the situation, the condition now. And I think the inner contemplation that you have, the self-reflection, really can allow you to cheerlead yourself in knowing that you've done this much, what else is possible? And when you look back and see what you've done, you were almost nudged into it. Like there wasn't a whole lot that most people had to do to get where they are. It may seem so, but the things that you are skilled and gifted and able to do, they flow into your life and you're able to say yes freely. And when you feel that you're stopped, it's important to self-reflect, self-inquire, what's next for me? Follow that guidance, get excited about the ideas, and then take action. And it will be revealed the steps that you must take to move forward and deeper into the unknown to get what you want out of life.
How would you apply those same principles? And I'm sure they're very similar, but to somebody that's in a business and they're having those same feelings of, I'm in the same spot. I'd like to either grow it or change something, but I'm not sure what. So as a coach, and you're looking at this, what would you advise them to do to try to break free from that?
Yeah, I always like to return to my why. Why am I committing my time, my energy, my talent, my creativity to any cause? And, most often, people get disassociated with their why and they get attached to isms, whether it's wealth or clout or whatever it is, titles. And so when I would advise anyone that's looking to grow their business or to move, that they're contemplating moving in a different direction or taking on more responsibility or entering into partnerships, right, is to really go back to their why. Because if you are not inspired to take actions in alignment with your business, your dream, it's not going to be sustainable. So I would say go back and revisit your why, and your why may tell you to move away from the business and actually take what you got out of, what you grew through with the business into something else. And I've done that when I packed up and moved to Europe. I was leaving America, right? I was leaving America. I was leaving, the systems that we have, our bills, how we live, our insurance. And, I was confronted by, well, how am I going? But I couldn't let that stop me, right? And so I had to question who I am. What is my why? Do I want to impact a small piece of the planet, or do I want to impact the planet? And my why was I want to impact the world. So I need to be out there in the world and experience what other people are experiencing and knowing.
So when you look at, the comfort that we typically have, and we get used to these systems and the ways of life and everything like that, what would you say, how do you break through that? So, you gave a good example of, when you moved outside of the US, That's a huge step. So we're setting the system, we get comfortable, and you were able to basically work through that at the mindset level, at the, your thinking, your conscious level, whatever, all of that combined. How does somebody tackle that? Because we're used to that. We're used to the system. We get to stay in the comfort lane. And as soon as you say, I'm going to move outside of the US, I love those examples. You have, well, the system, you have the, whether healthcare or the pay or insurances or their driver's license, you have all these things. How do you work through that process?
I think it's unique for everyone, and when I coach people, there could be 5 people with the same breakdown, but the coaching is unique. So I would only say respond for myself. I learned to go back to the basics. And what I mean by that is I self-reflect on who was I when I was born. I was someone who didn't know a whole lot. I was taught and conditioned, and then at a certain point, I realized, I have these abilities to freely think. I have these abilities to take action. I may even have some talents that I can identify that other people aren't aware that they have or that they don't have. And what can I do with what I have, right? And so when I realize what's in my toolbox, when I self-reflect about a choice that I'm going to make in a direction that I should go, I go back to the basics and realize that I have a lot of tools in my toolbox, and my tools have gotten me to where I am. And that gives me confidence to imagine what it might be outside of my conditioning. And if I can imagine what it might be outside of my conditioning, and I can get excited about what I'm imagining, I can actually create action items that I can take that will actually move me into that reality. And, there's a lot of coaching that go into what I even just said now. And I've had a lot of positive influences in my life. I'm a loner in most sense because I'm always contemplating it in thought. And so even that, I think, requires a level of clarity. So coaching is even important to just clear the mind, that you can contemplate without attachment, right? Because thoughts come and you can attach and they can take you down these rabbit holes, or you can just be present to the flow of thought and just be open to imagination. That can open you to so much that's possible.
I really love how you simplified this concept. If I had to summarize, just if you say, how do you take the jump? So somebody that's looking at taking the jump in entrepreneurship or leaving corporate or going back or starting a new venture or moving across the country. I love what you said right here. You said you have a toolbox that you've built over all these years, and you have the tools in there that have gotten you where you're at. You have to trust in that toolbox. And I think that's a simple message that people can take with them and say, yes, I do have a toolbox and I can confidently navigate whatever's coming up. So if you believe and you reflect, like you said, then all of a sudden you say, okay, I'm going to make this decision and I'm going to trust that toolbox. I'm going to trust the tools that I've built over the years, the ones that I'm using now and the ones that I'm not, but they're there and they're going to get me through. And that gives you confidence. So somebody that's listening that says, I'm ready to take the jump, I'm ready to lean into this, those tools might be dusty, but you can get them out and you can use them. And I think that's good, clear, simple advice for people that are looking to do that. So I really appreciate how you laid that out. And I think, that's very valuable for somebody that's thinking about that.
Yeah. Yeah. These are contemplations that, I think they fly by it in people's thoughts and they don't get, like, it's a lot. Like that piece is big, right? It's big. And if you could absorb that and walk around with that knowing in your being, come on, nothing's going to stop you. Just following that line, I want to share with your listeners, your toolbox. One analogy that jumped out in my mind when I made the discovery of this concept of a toolbox is that there are many tools in our toolbox, and it is worth contemplating whether we are appropriately using the tools that we're accessing out of the box, right? Because if you're taking your, let's say a cell phone as a tool, and you're taking your cell phone just to play the radio on it, like you just tune into your favorite jazz station, but you're not aware that that tool can also take pictures and shoot video and do Skype calls and create emails and text, and like you don't even know. So I think it's worth looking at your toolbox, being curious about what's in it and playing around with those things until you figure out how to best use the tools for you.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I mean, this is one of those clips that I say sometimes you just got to go back and listen to again and just dive into some of these comments because they're powerful. There's one thing that you mentioned too about three kind of key like sequence. How does that tie into all this?
Yeah, you're speaking of be, do, have. It ties into all of this is because our state of being creates the world. Our state of being creates the world. Like we're each perceiving the world. And even your perception is your perception and my perception is my perception. You can tell me your perception, but then I'm just perceiving what you're telling me is your perception. So being, our state of being creates the world. And me receiving and hearing your perception, my state of being would dictate how I respond to what you're offering, which is your perception. So being is really important. Our state of being really allows us and energizes us to take action, which is the do, right? And when you take action, you're actually creating and causing world, right? You're causing. Your sense of being will allow you to imagine what's possible. Your doing will cause that, right? And then you have, right? Have is the abundance that comes with your state of being and the actions that you take in alignment with your desires, your intentions, your ambitions, or goals. So what I discovered in my journey is we're conditioned to live in reverse. We're conditioned to present that we have, and then we're taking all these actions to leverage and support that projection of us having, where most of us really aren't there. And then our state of being is just all over the place, right? Because we're living in reverse. And so once I got that for myself, I'm always checking in with my state of being in any time, in any moment, in any, like even this interview that I'm having with you, I made sure that my state of being was one that I'm open, that I'm sharing, that I am impacting listeners who might hear this, that they can actually get access to some power. And that's my state of being. I'm choosing this state of being, right? And then the actions that I'm taking is offering, like hearing the internal guidance of what I should say and saying it and putting it out there. And what comes with it will come with it. It will attract what it will attract. And I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think what I'm trying to do and get out there and share with contractors and business owners is exactly what you're saying. And I know some people listen to these, if they're not used to hearing about some of the mindset stuff and the being, it can be a little overwhelming. It can be a little like, what is this? Is it hocus pocus? Is it this or that or whatever it is? But the idea is these are the things as owners and leaders we really have to understand if we really want to impact organizations, our family, our being, our community. When we just work on strategy always peters out. If you keep, I work with contractors and companies and owners across the country, and I continually see them trying to more strategy. And they haven't taken the time to actually, I call it understanding the you part, but it's very similar. What we're talking about is understanding where you're at, what you need to do, what things are holding you back in the mind, what experiences have led to that. Because here's an example that those experiences of you always taking new ventures have created a path for you to continue to create new adventures. But if that same person took that one adventure and it turned out in a negative fashion, then they're much less likely to take that adventure on in the future. But what happens is that might have been 10 or 15 years ago or 20 years ago, and it has no bearing anymore on their life. It has no bearing on their current being or who they are. So revisiting that and saying, 20 years ago, I was a different person. I didn't have the tools in my toolbox that I do today. So when you break that down and look at it like that, now you can say, well, I am confident to do that. I do have the tools today. But too many people, and this is what I'm passionate about with the you part, is too many people let that past experience dictate them taking the jump, moving into something new. And those are the people that there's so much opportunity waiting on the other side. And I really love having this conversation with you because it's getting the word out there for people that may be at that point. And they might say, yeah, I did have something happen, but that was 20 years ago. I've never really thought about it again. That's the magic.
Oh, absolutely. And in contemplation, it's really important to allow yourself to go back and review what happened, because in the happening, there are many occurrences. And one of the things that I discovered is that we typically are suppressed by an occurrence because we make a story up about how it occurred. But we can go back and consider other points of observation and create a new story, which will set us free from the one that kept us, I would say, held back or in bondage or stopped. So contemplation is really important. And it all starts with, you talk about the you, it all starts with us. Like, even if you're the most successful CEO out there breaking records, it is important to own your energy, to own who you are, because I've been in situations where the success is just, it's just like an avalanche. And if you don't have the energetic bandwidth to hold that, like it's not going to be sustainable. So it's really important to make sure that we're in alignment with our personal why, and we're taking inspired actions in alignment with that. And you're going to have success. You're going to attract others who will, I think you had a show that I saw yesterday. You'll have others who will support where you may perceive you're weak. You will attract those opportunities into your business, into your life, that will enrich you and allow you to fulfill what you are here to impact. And I really, hold that to heart, that we're all here to make an impact and everyone must win. And so I'm always committed that whatever I've grown through, if I can support someone else in getting access to it and leveraging it however they need, then the exchange is they're going to also show up in my life in a way that they're going to play a part where I'm maybe not able to play. So it's a win-win. And I think most businesses get bogged down because, the condition is if you're number one, everyone else isn't, right? So if you're always working and hustling to be number one, it's usually at some cost. And it's typically the cost is non-collaboration with others that could actually have many ones, right? There could be many ones.
Powerful words. Well, tell us a little bit about your current project.
Yeah, so Lake August Gardens is really a full circle moment for me. I actually believe I was put on this planet to garden. I love nature. It really saved me. My dad he's deceased now, but he was a Vietnam veteran. He suffered and struggled with PTSD. And so growing up in that type of household, we had to figure it out. And so landscape design really saved me, and it has continued to be a resource of access to power, abundance, connection, beauty, excitement, inspiration, exhilaration. And so Lake August Gardens is kind of a full circle opportunity where me and Joseph we've been able to acquire, 22 acres on a quarry that flooded the year I was born. I think at least the mid 70s is what they say. And we're creating a beautiful space for people to, I say healing because I'm a coach and I know that a lot of what I impact in folk is healing, right? Healing their self to be able to have momentum and move forward. Lake August Gardens is that. And nature, I found, is the greatest healer. It is the greatest healer. Even just gazing upon, a beautiful botanical is peaceful, is calming, is tranquil, and that promotes a sense of happiness and healing. So that's what we're creating here at Lake August Gardens. We will host events. We will have lodging, obviously, with the lake, which is about 3.5 acres, maybe 50 feet wide and 50 feet deep. There's fishing and different things like that. So we're really excited. We're about 50 minutes outside of Dallas. But as you know, DFW is growing by leaps and bounds. So we want to create that opportunity for people to find a tranquil place, an oasis of connection and healing at Lake August Gardens.
What's kind of the time frame on it? Where is it now? And what are some of the things upcoming?
Yeah, we acquired the property in 2020, amid the onset of the pandemic, which was in divine order, I feel, because it gave us the freedom to really envision how we wanted to build the property. So, excuse me, I would say within the next couple of years, we would be able to host events. We've had some test runs now just with family and friends and people that we know. We have began to put the first 4 acres together where there are beautiful botanicals. We'll have our first blooming experience here this spring. So we'll be inviting a small group of people out for that. And then in the back, there is a 10-acre cedar forest where we'll be having lodging. So I would say within the next 24 months to 36 months, we'll have a lodging situation where people can come and have their team building events or weddings or whatever it might be, or our quarterly programming within a year. And then within the next 2 to 3 years, they can actually have an event and lodge out here just outside of DFW.
Where can they find some more information on that and a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, doing 2 things. I found that coaching is really important through, education and information. So we did launch a channel on YouTube called Lake August Gardens, where I actually give subtle coaching through gardening tips. What I found is that since the pandemic happened, a lot of people have found themselves more at home and they want to increase their territory, use those backyards. So I provide a lot of tips that we're doing here at Lake August Gardens of what people can actually do in their own homes. But so YouTube, Lake August Gardens, just to follow those tips and get some coaching that you might receive. But also we're on all social media. You can find us on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, as well as Instagram, where we share just inspiring photos of the progress that we're making out here.
Awesome. Couple of quick fire questions to end it out. The construction industry would be better if?
The construction industry would be better if more people understood the labor that goes into construction, and that people who are in the industry really respected, what it takes for contractors. I just came out of the sustainable industry with Sunrun, what it takes to take a project from start to finish and be patient with that.
I can build blank in my sleep.
Concepts, constructs.
My biggest challenge is
not eating too much sugar.
My biggest skill is
communication.
Last thing you bought on Amazon?
Your book.
Awesome. Hey, I like that. That's a winning answer. It's like The Price is Right or something. Something should be flying in right now or something, right?
Yeah, and it was so great because you had 3 options. I think you had the digital, Kindle, you had the hardback, and the
audio,
paper. Yeah, and the audio. So there were 4 options. I think I got the paperback, but I'm excited to get it.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Cabin or beach house?
Woo, beach house.
Your favorite brand of tool or equipment?
I'm going to say my favorite right now is my iPhone because it allows me so much mobility.
It's a good answer. I want other business owners in construction or even just any business owner to know what?
Human-centeredness starts with you.
I like that. Thanks so much for being on the show. It was a great episode. I think this is a tool that people can use to take that jump, to understand a little bit more about themselves. Lamont, I really appreciate you being on the show and sharing your insights.
Seth, thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to connecting again.
Thanks for listening. Like and share with other contractors. Start studying you to unlock your momentum. Go to www.startthemo.com to learn more.